Yeah, let me know when we go live here, or we are live and you're not even telling me. I'll be with everybody. Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com. In today's video, I know I didn't get to make one last week. I apologize. I had a radio. I was on a radio show, and what happened was I was wanting to get that recording that day to put it on for Friday. That hasn't happened yet, but I promise that will come on because I think that when you hear me on uh, where other people bring me in and I talk, I think it brings more credibility to what I say to you. This is on a gospel radio station. I've done a lot of work with them and the organizations that they work with. What we talked about on there was debtors' prisons. One of the hosts uh, had Soraya, which is a very good friend of ours with the company. Uh, we we were talking about where there's this thing called debtors' prison. Now, if you look on the internet and you search it, debtors' prisons were in other countries. The United States did not have them exact. That's really if you research how bankruptcy came about for the average citizen was because of debtors' prison. The United States has laws that say that you cannot be in prison because of your debts. That you can actually have relief of your debts, and and it's called bankruptcy. And they have two different levels for individuals. Chapter 7, which wipes away everything that is unsecured, and you can also get rid of secured debt by giving it back in that bankruptcy process, or you can do what's called a reclaim and pay on those debts and wipe away all the unsecured debt. Most people use it to wipe away unsecured debt. In 2006, the laws were changed to where people had to had their attorneys sign because there was a lot of bankruptcy fraud, so to speak, that was going around. And so what they did is they said, okay, we want to make your lawyer sign that you don't have any assets or anything that you're hiding. To try to put an extra step on there of of blame if something was to go wrong. So the attorney, they're gonna really want to ask those questions. But them knowing that they're an attorney, they're gonna know that if they just ask questions, that it's gonna be overlooked, and most of the blame is gonna go on to the consumer. So no matter what, they were just gonna get the job done and try to get relief for the consumer. And so you saw a big escalation of bankruptcies. And so that's a chapter 7. Chapter 13 is where you do a repayment program on your debts. And this is the one that when they changed the law, it forced a lot of people into chapter 13 first. And then it flipped a lot of people flip over to chapter 7 because they just couldn't keep up even with the payments that were arranged in chapter 13. And so some of the times I be thinking that this is like a conspiracy because what ended up happening is that attorneys would have people sign up for 13, and then they did 13, and then they come back and say, hey, I need to do a chapter. They charge them the fees on the chapter 13, which is humongous. I know some attorneys that are making $4,000 to $5,000 on a chapter 13, and they get their money before any creditors get their money, and then they flip them over into doing, and they charge those fees. Then they flip them over into doing a chapter 7, which on average, depending on the attorney, going to make about $1,500 to $2,000 on that. So look at the money that the attorneys are making on that. But to circle back around, what it's all about is that these debtors' prisons, and what's happened is we don't have a debtors' prison in the United States, but we are starting to see, and I had a video about it, as prosecutor sign, seal and sign warrants for arrest, which is if a collection agency sued you in court and you didn't show up, you didn't respond, they'll send this, and they're doing it really quick now. They're not having to sit in front of the prosecutor to get this signed. Prosecutors are doing what's kind of like a robo sign of these. If the debt collection company met a certain standard, they can have a warrant out for your arrest to arrest you because you didn't answer to a debt. It doesn't matter what amount the debt is for. And I had talked about some examples where in 22 states they are actually doing this. People might get pulled over for a speeding ticket. People might get their plates ran. People might be illegally parked, and all of a sudden the cop is waiting there to arrest them because they have an arrest warrant on them for a debt that they didn't answer to. And we're seeing this sweep across the United States. It's currently in 22 states. You don't have to take my word for it. Search it on Google, and you'll see that. So then, with that being said and done, what I had also showed them, and I had showed you in a previous video, was where I had saw last month the largest amount of consumer debt that was released into the market. $132 million worth of bad debt in 1 month from one group of department store cards, a group of them. It wasn't just one store. So what I was saying to myself was, and we got to logically see how this process works, because when you're in business, and I'm in business, and maybe you're in business or you work for a company, companies, what they do is they see things for as it is. We look at it and we say, okay, that is what it is, and there's a problem that is in the middle of all of that. How can I fix that problem and make my company profitable, and then make it more profitable? So what the debt collection companies are seeing, they're seeing we got $132 million worth of uncollected debt that we have purchased. And now what would be, the problem is people don't respond. The problem is people aren't paying it. So how do we see this problem, so how do we fix this problem? Well, what the strategy that they had started doing was, we're going to look online, look at their finances, and look at how they're living their life by looking at their credit report. So they're paying to get access to people's credit profile. Next, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, when we see that credit profile, we want to garnish that individual. Well, some of the times they may not have been able to locate the individual, or the process was you might get some, you might not get some, but they were very successful with that process where they're garnishing people. But it's very expensive to do it that way. So, and it's a very good strategy, because what they're doing is they're getting almost 100%. When we deal with people that have gotten to that level, the best thing that we could do for them is to try to set up a payment arrangement that they could afford, rather than having to pay the amount that the garnishment was. And then some of the times we were able to help them get a lower, to negotiate a lower buyout on that garnishment. But that's a strategy that they've been using, and it's been working very well, where they'll just get the judgment, get the garnishment, start collecting. They have all the data from your credit reports. But now what they're doing is, like I said, they see that problem and they're like, how can we even maximize our rate of return on our investment? So if you get the judgment and then you're not able to collect, the next best strategy is to put a warrant out for their arrest. You can even let them know that there's a warrant out for their arrest. Remember, they always used to threaten that we're going to get you arrested. Well, now they're actually following through with that. They can show that that will scare a person to the max, way more than getting a garnishment sent to your job. Having a warrant for your arrest will scare you, because that means that someone's going to take your freedom away, put you into jail over a debt that you owe. And so this is their strategy. This is what they're doing. Now, the solution, and I'm all about solution, the solution to this, without paying the money, the solution is to either have a company speak on your behalf and open up the communications, or you open up the communications even if you're not able to pay the debt. I know that that's a fine line that you, if you're doing it yourself, that's a fine line that you're going to have to, tightrope that you're going to have to walk on, because they're going to put a lot of pressure on you and say, why aren't you paying this? There's certain pressures that they'll put on you that they're not going to be able to put on someone that's talking on your behalf, just in the communication, not to even settle, just in the communication fashion. There's certain things that they're going to ask you that if you don't give the right answer, you're going to fall into their trap. So the number one thing is to just open up the communications. Once you respond to them and let them know your situation, they cannot put a warrant out for your arrest. Not to say that some of them won't be unscrupulous and do it, but they will 99.99% of them will not do it. Now, something else that I'm starting to see on the credit reports, and I spoke about this too, is that I'm seeing now that they've been tinkering and messing up the Obamacare, where they're not funding it. They're letting the insurance companies do all these tricks and gimmicks with the insurance. And I talked to you about what even my wife and I have experienced, is that I'm seeing a lot of medical bills popping up, where they were being paid by those insurance companies, and now insurance companies have that wiggle room to go back to the way it used to be, and they're starting not to pay certain bills, or they're starting not to give certain care that was included with what was in the compliance for Obamacare. They're starting to like take those little pieces away, which were very important to making the whole plan work. It's like you trying to put a puzzle together and you leave out some pieces, it's not going to work. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. What they're taking those pieces away from something that was materializing to be a very good insurance plan. And we're starting to see a lot of people starting to get medical debt on their credit reports. Now, solution that I'm starting to see, before the Affordable Care Act had came into play, we were able to assist our clients with doing a lot of medical settlements. When it came into play in 2014, the medical companies were wanting to get 100% of their money because they felt that everybody was insured. So now it's like it's flipping back to the way it was. But and you might be saying, well, that means that settlements are coming back. You can, if you have a medical bill that you can't pay, you could settle it for less. And yes, that is going to be coming back into play. But what I've seen when I've interacted with clients is that their care is going down. So it's like, you're going to save a few dollars over here, but your care is going down, which is going to put your health in jeopardy. And that's where I think people don't be looking at the entire picture when it comes to health care and living their life on a financial, putting their life on a good financial footing, is that they never look at the whole picture. They're always looking at what's happening to me right now. That McDonald's or that fast food type mentality, which gets a lot of people in trouble. We could see that all of these companies, they have a long game. People that are successful in life, they have a long game where they're saying, okay, this is how it is right now. I'm going to take care of business right now, but this is what I'm projecting out for the future. And that's where I see a lot of people failing, and the way that companies and the way that services are being offered, the way that people are, sent deals and stuff, that they buy stuff that they don't need to buy. This is the economy that we live in. It's like this entice people to do things right now, and regardless if it's best for them or in the best decision that they should make. So I hope that this information has helped you. Again, my name is Stephen Williams, founder and president of thecreditrepairshop.com. If you need our help, please go to our website, thecreditrepairshop.com, or click the link above or below this video. Thank you, and until next time.